Joining us now is Joe Cirincione, president of the Plowshares Fund, a global security foundation, and a member of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's International Security Advisory Board. Thanks for coming in tonight.
My pleasure.
Now, I've never seen somebody use charts like that at the UN, but explain to us what he was saying and what those different thresholds mean, and then whether he's right.
So the Prime Minister has a point. Iran is making low-enriched uranium. They're enriching it to a certain level. You can take that low-enriched uranium, put it back in the centrifuges, and after a few weeks or months, turn it into high weapons-grade uranium for a bomb. That's one level. They also are making medium-enriched uranium, which is about 20% enriched. They can put that back in the centrifuges, turn it into bomb grade. It takes a little less time. So he wants us to draw a line at a certain level, that if they make, say, a couple of 100 pounds of that medium-enriched uranium, that's going too far, that's when we strike.
So the red line, and everybody uses the phrase the red line, beyond which we lose our capacity essentially to stop Iran from getting a bomb,
yes,
is defined by the quantity, the volume of enriched uranium they have.
Right, so they have thousands of pounds of this low-enriched uranium. So they're nuclear capable now. They could put it back in the centrifuges, make a bomb. They have a couple of 100 pounds of this medium-enriched uranium. So he's making a somewhat artificial distinction, signaling that out, that somehow that is very threatening. But here's the point. Iran has given no intention that they intend to do this. Our intelligence officials say Iran has not yet made the decision to make a bomb. The Prime Minister presents it as if this is a foregone conclusion. This is where they're going. That's why we have to stop it. This is why the President of the United States does not want to draw that line. We don't think they're going to cross that. And if they do, we'll see them doing it. We'll see them changing the centrifuges. We'll see them enriching to bombs grade, and that's when you can make your decision.
That, of course, is the critical issue, the quality of our intelligence, because we're trying to discern motive on their part. Do they intend to actually take what is some volume of enriched uranium, threshold we don't precisely know, and go to the next step? And of course, that's why all these centrifuges that you refer to in the Stuxnet virus and the effort to close them down, but we're trying to presume and infer from their behavior what their intent is.
Well, we also see what they're doing. So the reason that Prime Minister Netanyahu has these precise quantities and is making this precise prediction is because there are UN inspectors at these facilities measuring what goes in, measuring what goes out. If they were to take that uranium out of those facilities, we would see them doing it. If they were to reconfigure the centrifuges, because you got to be real careful when you start making this to weapons grade, because something could go wrong while you're making it, we would see that happening.
I suppose that then is one of the hard questions. How much confidence do we have in the quality of our own intelligence with respect to what Iran is doing?
Iran has a record of trying to deceive us, and we have a record of catching them as they deceive us. They tried to hide the Natanz facility. We discovered it. They tried to hide the secret facility at Qom. We discovered it. Iran is probably the most watched country on earth. Our intelligence, Israeli intelligence, inside intelligence.
Of course, to play devil's advocate for a moment, we don't know where we have failed to catch them. In other words, Netanyahu's sort of card in his back pocket is that he is claiming to have intelligence that is certainly not accessible to the general public.
And that gets, well, we have pretty good intelligence. But
we as our government does, absolutely.
But this gets you to the next level. Does his solution work? Would a military strike solve the problem? And so far, most senior national intelligence officials in the United States and former officials say no, the cure would be worse than the problem. It would make the situation worse. It would start a third war in the Middle East. The consequences could be catastrophic for the region, for the global economy, and it might actually accelerate the Iranian program, not stop it.
Well, does that mean we have passed the point of no return because we have made a decision that the military action will not succeed?
No.
And therefore, if they make the decision that they want the bomb, what do we do?
What that tells you is you better be darn sure that these guys are making a bomb before you go to that military solution. You don't do it on a hunch. You don't do it on a risk. You don't do it on sketchy intelligence. You know, you have to be sure that they are going, and that therefore it's worth starting a third regional war that would make Iraq and Afghanistan look like a warm-up act.
Other than military action, sanctions are the primary vehicle we're using, primary mechanism we have to stop them. Are those sanctions imposing a sufficient price upon Iran's economy so that they are actually willing to comply with
They are crushing the Iranian economy. These are the strongest sanctions that have ever been enacted on any country ever. So their currency has fallen by 40% in the last few months. They are losing billions of dollars in oil sales as they're unable to sell the oil that they're producing. The question isn't there enough pressure? The question is, what's the deal? What's that pressure leading to? We backed them into a corner. Now we have to find a door that they can walk through, help them save face. That will probably take until November after the elections, when they know that the guy they're dealing with is going to be
November of next year?
November of this year.
This year.
Both sides are waiting for the November elections before they make a move, before they give their final offer.
I see. So in other words, just as the Russians basically were in a political, in international diplomacy, frozen zone, because it's very hard to negotiate on the cusp of an election.
And that's why the Prime Minister is pushing. He's trying to maximize his political leverage in this election.
Is he overplaying his hand?
He has overplayed his hand. He's alienated his closest
Okay, we're going to have to stop there, but we'll continue this some other night. Joe Cirincione, President of the Plowshares Fund, thank you so much for coming in. This is not going away as an issue. That's Viewpoint for tonight. Have a great evening.